Hi, welcome back to the XII Sound channel and part 29 in the series all about my Project 12 DIY modular analog synth. In this video we'll be looking at my latest module, the patch point changer. The inspiration for this module came from, well, the railways. If you've got a train travelling down one track and you want to change it to another direction, then you switch a set of points. So I could see an analogy here with signals travelling down patch cables on the modular synth. And so if I could put a signal that was travelling down one line, flick a switch and divert it down another line, or flick it the other way and it goes back to where its original destination. Hence the patch point changer. Also, a bit like on the railways, you need to know which line's active and where things are going. So a signalling system as well. So I've incorporated LEDs which show which line is active when you flick the switch. Very simple, very straightforward. I was going to call it a utility module, but it's more of a performance module. It allows you to kind of, rather than unplugging and plugging cables, it allows you at the flick of a switch to actually change the patch mid-performance. Okay, let's have a look at the circuit diagram. Very simple, very straightforward. You've got a input jack and then a double pole double throw switch. Now the reason I use double pole double throw will become obvious, but on one set of the switch poles you can switch, your input goes to the center one, and then you can switch between your two outputs. Now for the signaling system I use diodes, and I put power into the other side of the switch, the second set of poles, so the power goes to the center pole, and then the respective diodes get switched as the switch gets thrown. Now the reason I've not put the diodes in the signal lines is because sometimes if you have a diode in a signal line on your modular system, it will interfere with the signal that's going down there. So I've basically just used this in such a way that it keeps the diodes completely separate to the signal path. Now there's no real circuit diagram, there is a circuit diagram, that's what we've just seen. There's no circuit board, is what I'm trying to say, for this. Everything is kind of just wired together on the panel. But I have knocked together a wiring diagram, if you like, and that looks like this. Now you can see there I've got, it says optional center off for the double pole double throw switch. If you have the center off option, you also incorporate a kill function, because in the center position nothing's connected to anything. All the lights are out, the signals aren't going anywhere. So not only do you have a path changer, but you have the ability to kill the signal as well. A little bit of a reference back to my previous module, the one before this, which was the killer module, which simply was a collection of kill switches. When I wire it all together, the back of the panel looks something like this. So everything is just kind of wired. One thing to note there, there's those crazy loops between the diodes and the actual switch. If you flick the switch up, then it's the opposite poles on the switch that are actually connected. So with the switch flicked up, it's the bottom poles that are connected to the center. With the switch flicked down, it's the top poles that are then connected to the center. So I've got to think about that when you're wiring your switches up and mounting them on the panel, such it kind of everything works in a logical fashion. Now the front of the panel looks like this. So there's the only controls are actually the switch in the middle, and then you've got A, B and C for your three inputs, and it's bi-directional. You can use A and B as inputs and C as your output, or you could use C as your input and A and B as your outputs. the signal will go in either direction depending on what modules you connect to it. Okay, very, very simple. Not a lot to that. But does it work? Well, I've put together a quite short demo which just gives an idea of some of the things it can do. So let's go and have a listen to that. This is going to be a very basic demo of the patch point changer. Since it's about patching and patch points, then I'll talk you through the basic patch that I've got set up. So starting here, we'll start with this one. I've got a clock signal going into gate to trigger, and the trigger signal going into patch point A on the top changer. And then into patch point B, I have the same clock signal going into clock divider, and the divide by 2 out of the clock divider going into patch point B, and then the output, so that's kind of, they're like two inputs. The output point, patch point C on the top one, is going to the trigger input on my metals module, and then the output from the metals module goes into one of the mixer channels. On the lower patch point changer, patch point A is coming from a looping envelope signal. Patch point B is coming from the triangle output on an LFO, and then the patch point C is going into the CV input on a diode ladder VCF. The input to the VCF is coming from Quadrone drone module, and then the output from the VCF is going to the mixer. So some very basic patch, but it will help demonstrate what we can do switching both between inputs, and also because on my version I've used a center off switch, I can also have a kill function. And we'll hear a very short demo, a very basic demo of what flicking the patch point changes switches, what effect that has on this particular patch. There you go. A very simple module, but potentially very useful, either just in kind of making patching a little bit easier, or enhancing your performance by being able to switch patches in, out, or even off on the fly. So yeah, you've got a circuit diagram, you've got a wiring diagram, very few components, really simple. So if you fancy being able to change direction mid-performance, then go on, have a go. Build your own.